Welcome again. This is In the Clutch with Draft Raw. I said in previous videos, in the running back and the tight end videos, unfortunately, Maniac Ray wasn't able to be here, but co-host Draft Raw is here, and we're going to talk about the free agent frenzy that just happened this past weekend into this week. So let's just get right into it. The Ravens acquire Calais Campbell, 5th round pick. Now, when I saw this, I didn't know exactly what to think of it. I was a little bit up and down on it. And the reason why is because he's a 33-year-old defensive end / defensive tackle, just interior defensive lineman. And even though he's a generational type of talent in terms of you don't really find that type of size and speed everywhere, and for it to connect and actually turn out to be a really good player, because he is a Pro Bowl type player that was just at the Pro Bowl too. But this is a guy that, because of that age, I kind of wonder, is he going to be a little washed up? Now, getting rid of a 5th round pick is not a big deal to me, especially when you look at some previous 5th round picks the Ravens have had, just to kind of give you a little history of some things. You know, not to say we have been bad in picking 5th round picks or anything. I mean, you're not expecting those guys to really be great anyway, but it's been up and down. Like, we've had the Matt Judons and the Pernell McPhee, good 5th round picks, but we've also had some other guys that haven't really panned out like we were wanting them to. But it's one of those things where it's high risk, high reward, because you're getting rid of a low draft pick to getting a player that can honestly be a great pass rusher and a great addition to the Ravens team. Now, looking at another thing that happened, the biggest bonehead thing that happened, and this video is going to be mostly about trades, but the biggest bone thing is the Cardinals acquiring DeAndre Hopkins for not a 1st round pick, but for a 2nd round pick in David Johnson. I thought this was the dumbest move that I've ever seen in NFL history. You have a guy in Bill O'Brien, the head coach / GM, why he's the GM I don't know, of the Houston Texans, trading away their best player, the best receiver, and one of the top 5 players within the NFL, period, to the Arizona Cardinals for a measly 2nd round pick and an aging running back that hasn't been good in the last 3 years. What are we doing here, folks? I don't understand it. It's a bonehead move. We'll see if it works out. But I'm going to just say this right now. I was a huge fan of David Johnson, especially when he came out in the draft. So I have a little bit of sentimental value for David Johnson. And I feel as though he could still redeem himself and become a pretty good running back within the NFL. But the injuries keep piling up, and we just don't know. The biggest problem with this trade is that you only got a 2nd round pick. The Cardinals only gave away a 2nd round pick. When we talk about another trade that happened later in this video, you will see why I'm angry. But to me, we have to see what happens. If David Johnson does become good for the Texans, okay, whatever. But a 2nd round pick, guys, come on. You can't do that. You just can't. But whatever, we're just going to move on. Next, we're going to talk about another trade that the Ravens had, and they traded. Instead of acquiring player, they got rid of a guy, and they traded tight end Hayden Hurst for a 2nd round pick, and we swapped 4th and 5th round picks. We ended up giving away a 5th round, and they ended up the Ravens ended up giving away a 5th round, and the Falcons ended up giving away a 4th round. So the Ravens in this trade ended up getting a 2nd and a 4th round. And the Falcons ended up getting Hayden Hurst in the 5th round. Now, how can a player, Hayden Hurst, who's only played in this league for 2 years, be worth the same type of value as DeAndre Hopkins? How? This is why in that previous trade I just talked about why it was such a bonehead move. Now, I believe that this was a good move for both sides. The reason why is because I feel as though the Falcons wanted to get a legitimate tight end type of prospect. And I feel as though with a guy, Hayden Hurst, who was a 1st round pick, they're not just getting a guy for 2 years. They're getting a guy that's going to be there for at least the next 3 years. Now, he is an older player because when he was drafted, he was like 24, 25 years old. So by the time his contract will end, if they do pick up the 5th year option, he will be 30. We know how football is. In the NFL, 30 is considered old. So that may be the big problem. But they may still be getting a guy that can really improve their team. They have Matt Ryan, you have Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley. And now you bring in a more dynamic tight end in Hayden Hurst, who's better than the guy that they let go in Austin Hooper. And so to me, I feel as though on both sides it was a good trade. Maybe the Falcons gave up too much by getting rid of a 2nd round pick, but not really because Hayden Hurst is a former 1st round pick. But the Ravens definitely got good value in getting that 2nd round pick and also getting a 4th round pick to add to their arsenal. Next, we're going to talk about the Colts trading their 13th overall pick for DeForest Buckner. Now, I'm not going to say DeForest Buckner is not worth a 1st round pick. 13th overall, to be exact. But the problem that I do have with this trade is that I'm kind of looking at it as, did the Colts actually need this player in particular? Could they have drafted someone that could have possibly given them the same type of value? Now, he's a proven commodity in terms of he's proven that he can play in this NFL and be a really, really good player. And guys that you're drafting are not proven. But is that 1st round pick worth a guy that's just a defensive lineman that's never, I won't say never, but is hardly going to ever give you double-digit sacks in a season? He's hardly ever going to be just an absolute wreck almost at least half the plays or almost every single play. He's just a guy, he can push the pocket. He can get sacks here, there. You know, he is a great player, but he's not that dynamic edge rusher. Like if you was to trade a 1st round for Khalil Mack or Von Miller or something. This is not the guy. But at the same time, he is a good player. I think overall, the 49ers definitely won this because they got back a 1st round pick that they traded away. Actually, I'm sorry. They didn't trade away. They do now. They actually have 2 1st round picks, which is pretty interesting. People are going to possibly wonder, will they package that other 1st round pick with this 13th overall pick and maybe move up and get somebody that can really improve their team, and maybe they can get themselves back into the Super Bowl. But this is a situation where definitely the 49ers won it because they got a pick that's literally 3 spots away from being in the top 10. So to me, it's great for the 49ers. I don't know how much it is great for the Colts, but we'll see. If DeForest Buckner becomes a great player, then it doesn't look as bad. But overall, I think that the 49ers definitely won this trade. Looking at one of the last things that happened in the trade, and that is the Stephon Diggs trade. The Bills traded away a 1st round pick, the 22nd overall, a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, and a 4th round pick for next year. In return, the Bills got a measly 7th round pick, which I don't understand. Like, what was the point of getting a 7th round? And Stephon Diggs. Now, this is great for the Bills, and it's great for the Vikings. The Bills get a number 1 type of receiver. The Vikings get a lot of draft capital, which they do need if they want to try to improve to becoming one of the top teams within the league. Now, they did get rid of a number 1 type of receiver, but they have picks where they can grab up a receiver or receivers that could possibly replace that production. Now, in both trades, I think both teams did a good job in what they got. Maybe the Bills gave up too much, but I think that the simple fact is that they only gave up a first-round pick, and the only other picks they gave up was a 5th and a 6th rounder. So they still got to keep their 2nd and 3rd round picks, and they just gave up a 4th round for the next year, which is essentially a 5th round this year. If you that's how you kind of think of it. It's one of those things where, like I said, both teams won this trade. Now, who is it not good for? Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen is not a great quarterback. And I think Stephon Diggs is going to get even more frustrated playing with Josh Allen because he's not that accurate. Getting this guy helps your team getting a number 1 receiver, getting another weapon, but it doesn't improve the quarterback. It doesn't improve him being able to throw the ball accurately. And I will say this, I do not expect this move to work as smoothly as they think it will. Maybe it'll work in retrospect because Stephon Diggs can get open, and it's easier to throw to a wide open guy than a guy that's covered. But I will say this, Josh Allen is not that type of guy, and he will overthrow or underthrow a receiver badly. So even though for both teams it's a good type of pick, you're getting the Bills are getting a great player, the Vikings are getting the extra draft capital, Stephon Diggs may actually suffer from this draft. Not from this draft, but just suffer from this trade. Anyway, once again, this is In the Clutch. I am your host, Draftrawthentic. Please comment, please like, and please subscribe. I thank everybody for watching. Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning into the show In the Clutch. You can find us on YouTube at Giraffe Raw. Please sign in and subscribe. Also on Uncut Sports on Facebook. You can also catch us at Ravens Nation as well. And Giraffe Raw, what's that page you subscribe to?
Please subscribe to TV Free Baltimore. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. And if you want to see more of me, you can subscribe to Draftrawthentic on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And the opening song is called Bring the Pain. That's by the artist Renard. Streaming on all major platforms, specifically Spotify. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.